Welcome to the Rule the Wasteland Podcast. This is the Lord Humongous, aka Eric from rulethewasteland.com. Thanks for tuning in. Today I wanted to talk about a subject that I've been thinking about a long time and trying to find out the best way to get this idea across. And I guess I was sort of waiting until I started the podcast because it's something I wanted to explain more just off the cuff than try to write it down. Wanted to try and do it in this format. I think would be a little better than trying to make a video or even a article. But the general idea is the motivation for preparedness. Now, I did the last podcast on your prepping mission statement, and a lot of this is related to that, or at least having a mission statement will help prevent this problem that I'm talking about in this podcast. And that is the idea that you do not want to make irrational, fear-based decisions. You don't want your prepping, or anything else in your life for that matter, but for this podcast, I'm going to specifically be focusing on prepping and preparedness. You don't want to be making these decisions out of fear or trying to avoid negative emotions. You really want to be doing it to make your life better and to pursue positive emotions. And that may seem like it's not a big distinction, but it makes a huge difference. And the difference is if, I'm really big into mixed martial arts. I love watching UFC and pretty much any mixed martial arts fights. And if you watch someone who is fighting not to lose, like their primary goal is just not to get finished, not to get choked out, not to get knocked out, they're going to fight a lot different than someone whose primary goal is simply to win at all costs. And you will see that in the way that they fight. And honestly, the people who are fighting not to lose, or not to lose badly, are going to not do as well. They're not going to win usually. They will probably prevent themselves from having anything too heinous happen to them just by being super defensive, but they're never going to get that good outcome. And letting your life be ruled by negative emotions like that, particularly fear, is going to cause you to do things much more differently than you should or than you even want to, especially when it comes to preparedness and prepping. Because if you let your decisions be ruled by fear, you're never going to get to a point that you don't feel that fear just based on your preparations. Because if your decisions and your motivation is an irrational fear of the what if, then there's no amount of preparation you can do that's going to get rid of that. And so you might as well just not do any and save your money, because you're always going to have that fear. Like, yeah, you might be technically more prepared. I mean, you would be, obviously, if you have all this stuff, but it's not going to make your life better because that fear is always going to be there, and it's always going to be making your life miserable, even on a small scale. Like, it might not be ruining every minute of every day, but it's always going to be like a buzzing in the background that's making your life worse, not better. And having all that preparation is just going to add more stress, take away your money, take away your space, make your friends think you're weird or whatever, and it's going to be because of a phobia, not because of a rational decision that you've made based on things that you've seen that you think this needs to be done. And that's why it's important, like I mentioned in the last podcast, to have a mission statement. This needs to be a coherent decision that you've made based on logic and reasoning, not based on fear. And then once you've made that decision, stick to it. So the decision can't be, I'm worried about that crazy shit might happen, so I need to have as much stuff as possible to be as prepared as possible because anything can happen. That's just going to lead you to never being at ease, always spending a lot of money and time and space, and probably not even being quite as prepared as someone who has made a very specific mission statement to just be prepared for 90 days or 6 months or something like that. For example, like if you take if you look at everything that's going on in the world today, all the different types of disasters that you think are within the realm of realistic possibility, obviously something like an asteroid is still within the realm of possibility, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's something that this has a reasonable chance of happening, a high enough chance of happening that it justifies doing something to prepare for it, spending my time and resources to prepare for it, to make my life better. Once you figure that out and say, okay, I need to prepare for 6 months, then you can look and say, for 6 months, at this many calories, I need this much rice, I need this much meat, I need this much water. Bam. And then if after that, you still feel like, nah, I'm not really prepared, you can just drive those emotions out of your head and realize that that's purely fear-based because you've already done the research, you've made the decision that this is what you need to do to have a better life, and then you can know that you've done what you need to do. You've already calculated what it is you need, you've got that, and you're done with it, and then you can move on. Whereas if you just say, man, I'm worried that something might happen, and you buy some stuff, you buy some gear, oh, maybe I need this, oh, if this happens, I need this. Well, if someone throws a Molotov cocktail on my roof, it'll burn me out. Now I need a sprinkler system. Or if someone just shoots from the street, they could take me out, so now I need a 2-block thick concrete wall. Oh, well, if this happens, I need these old toys laying around in case a refugee family comes by and I need to swap with their little girl for her boots or whatever. You can come up with any number of ridiculous situations that you would need things. And I mentioned this in the last one. If you're trying to come up with a what if situation for why you would need something or to keep something, you'll find it. You'll be able to. I could come up with that for anything. But that's based on fear, and you shouldn't be doing that because it's not going to make your life better. And it only will make you marginally more prepared to begin with, because these are super outlier situations, very specific what-ifs that you could come up with. And a basic core preparedness is going to prepare you for most situations and give you the time and this breathing room, basically, to take care of other things that crop up that you're not specifically prepared for. So you got to figure out exactly what you're preparing for ahead of time, write down what you need to prepare for that goal, do that, and then be done with it. And obviously, if new information comes tonight, you don't want to just be, okay, I'm not changing this ever, but make it based on logic, make it based on reason and actual data, not based on fear. Because if you base it on fear, it's not going to make your life better to begin with. And you're going to be spending a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of energy, and that fear is not going to go away just because of that. Because it's not based on you not having 5 pounds of rice, or you not having a well. It's not specifically based on any of those things. The fear is just there because you're worried about something that may happen in the future that you don't have control over. So you need to take control of your negative emotions and make sure that that's not what's driving your decision, because otherwise it'll never go away. Doesn't matter how much stuff you buy, doesn't matter how many cans of beans or rolls of toilet paper, that feeling is always going to be there if it's just rooted in an irrational fear of the unknown, of what could happen in the future. So to some extent, you just have to let go of trying to be prepared for everything. Because like I said before, you can't be prepared for everything anyway. And just trying is stupid, because that's you're not going to use most of the preparations that you have, and it's going to make your life objectively worse for almost everyone. And even in the event that maybe an asteroid did happen and you have your bunker or whatever, most people aren't really looking for that level of preparedness. And a lot of people wouldn't even want to survive anyway after some planetary destructive event that killed everyone else. But even if you did, the point is that those are fear-based choices. They're not rational choices based on what you think is going to happen. Because and what gives us away is that people aren't really structuring the rest of their lives towards this idea that this might happen. Like, they'll go out and buy a bunch of stuff to supposedly prepare for some given event, like an economic collapse or EMP or whatever. But they won't really structure their day-to-day lives like that this was going to happen. Because if that was the case, then why would you just sell everything that's not survival related, run up all your credit cards, it doesn't matter about promotions, doesn't matter about clothing or looking nice, all this other stuff that people are still spending their time and effort on, still worried about their kids going to college. Like, if you really thought that these what-if scenarios were going to happen, you wouldn't be doing that. You would be putting all your resources into preparing for them. Like, if you somehow, had 100% proof that this thing was going to happen, you'd be living your life a lot differently. And that sort of gives away the fact they really don't think these things are going to happen. And you shouldn't, because even though it's possible, they're super, super low probability events. So the preparation is not based on the fact that they think it's going to happen. It's based on the fact that they're afraid that if it does, they would suffer somehow, or that these negative emotions are just going to be pressuring them to do these things. And it's not really based on they may not even really, really believe that this would happen. They certainly believe it's possible, and even I believe that these things are possible. But like I said, if you want to just play the what-if game, you can do that all day long and justify doing pretty much anything. And I don't think that's the healthiest way to do it. Because like I said, it all comes down to you trying to make your life better. And just reveling in the fear, or not reveling, I guess, but wallowing would be a better word. Wallowing in the fear and using that as motivation. It's not only not the best way to prep, but it's not going to go away either. It's not going to fix it. So that's all I have for today. It's a relatively short podcast. I just wanted to get that idea out there because I think it's important. I think a lot of people on YouTube and just preppers in general are making their decisions, they're fear-based. It's not based on a specific strategy that they have. It's just based on fear. So something for you guys to consider. Make sure that doesn't happen to you. I appreciate you guys listening, and I will talk to you later. There is more podcasts coming. Thanks for listening.